Welcome back to my channel, guys. Next in food, I am your diva chef Simone Walker Barrett. Today's tutorial is all about how to make Jamaican cocoa bread. Cocoa bread is a staple in Jamaica. We love to eat it with a hot beef patty. However, it's more versatile than that. You can use it as the base for your favorite sandwich. You can put your favorite meat or vegetables in between it. But cocoa bread gets its name from the fact that traditionally it was made with coconut milk. But nowadays, it's really all about whatever you have in terms of, if you don't have coconut milk, regular milk will do, and cocoa bread has a particular shape and a particular flavor, and I'm going to show you how simple it is to make cocoa bread at home for you and your family. So let's make some cocoa bread. Okay guys, so for cocoa bread you are going to need flour. I have some all-purpose flour in this container, and to our flour you will also need some salt. This here is coconut milk powder, so that goes in. You're going to need some sugar for sweet. Cocoa bread must have some sweetness in the background, and we're adding some sugar to get that going. You're also going to need some yeast, and this is instant yeast, so it goes into the flour. And then all we do is take a whisk and just combine all of those dry ingredients. A whisk is nice to use because it helps to get rid of any lump and just to aerate the flour a bit. Then to that we're going to need some fat. I'm using shortening. I like shortening in this because it gives it a lovely light airy texture. And then you want to mix the shortening in with a wooden spoon or your fingertips. So now that that is mixed in, we're going to add our liquid ingredients. Now this is coconut milk, so I use both fresh coconut milk and coconut milk powder. You will also need an egg and about 2 tablespoons of melted butter. What we do, we save most of the melted butter to brush on the bread before we put it into the oven. And then you just use your wooden spoon and just mix everything into a dough. How simple is that? So now that we have a nice dough, I am going to just turn it out and we're going to knead it, because kneading is very, very important to develop the gluten. So you want to put the dough out on some flour on the board and knead it. I am deliberately doing this by hand, so just to show you how simple it is to make this at home if you don't have a mixer. So don't worry. If you do have a mixer, you pour all the ingredients in the mixer fitted with a dough hook, and then you just mix it into a nice smooth dough. If you live in Jamaica and you want to make this, there's a flour that you can use. It's called baking flour. You can find that in the supermarket. Baking flour has a nice amount of gluten in there, and whenever you're making bread, it's nice to use a strong flour that has gluten. However, if you do not have access to baking flour, you can always use all-purpose flour. That is absolutely fine. I'm going to give this about 60 kneads just to make sure the dough is where I want it to be. All right guys, so finally I think the dough is where I want it to be. I'm going to put it back into my container, cover it, and leave it to double in size. That process is called fermentation, and fermentation does not stop until you put the product into a hot oven. So once your yeast is working well, your dough should double in size in about 40 to 60 minutes. So I'm going to let mine stay here and double in size for about 60 minutes. I'll show you what it looks like. All right guys, so our cocoa bread dough has been fermenting for approximately 50 minutes. It has doubled in size. So now it's time for me to just turn it out on a floured surface and portion it All right, so after you turn it out, I like to deflate it to get rid of some of that carbon dioxide gas. And then I want to divide my dough into, I want average cocoa bread size. So I want to divide the dough in two, and then I'm working with about 4-ounce pieces. Okay, so let's see. Now you could make them mini or you can make them big. So I think this is good enough. And then what you want to do is to just round them in a ball. And then this step is called benching. After you shape the product back into a circle and leave them on the bench to rise again, this step is called benching. Now after benching, we're going to make up and pan and then allow them to proof before we put them in the oven to bake. So from this recipe, I will get 7 cocoa bread. So I'm just gonna leave these on my bench covered with a cloth for 10 minutes, and then I come back and show you how to make them up and put them on your pan to proof. Okay guys, so our dough has been benching after portioning for 10 minutes. Now it's time for us to do the other step that we refer to as makeup and pan. That simply means that you're going to shape the dough into the shape that you want the end result to look like. And so for cocoa bread, it's usually round. So I'm going to dust my board and the dough with a little flour, and I'm gonna roll it out to about 1/4 inch thick, and I want to roll it to about 8 inches round. All right, just like that. Now don't worry if it's not a perfect circle. Then this is what we do: brush the excess flour off, and you take your melted butter and you brush onto the dough like that, and then we close it. Okay, so this is the first cocoa bread. Now that we have made up our cocoa bread, they're now on the pan, and this part is very important. It's called proofing. Proofing is a continuation of fermentation. So while they're proofing, I'm going to just butter the outside with some more melted butter, because butter is the characteristics, you know, one of the very important characteristics of cocoa bread. You want to butter both inside and out. So you really butter it 3 times, because after it bakes, we're going to butter it again. You want that nice buttery taste. Okay, but this step here will take about 15 to 20 minutes, the proofing part of it. You don't want to skip this step. This process is a little bit long, no rush. The result is going to be absolutely worth it. So we're going to just let it proof. If your kitchen is warm, it will take a little bit, it will go a little bit faster, but 15 minutes is good. Nice. So the cocoa bread has been proofing for 15 minutes. They have doubled in size. Look at that. See how big and bouncy and delicious they look. Now it's time to put them in the oven, and they're going to be baked. We will put them in a 375-degree oven, and then we're going to allow them to bake between 12 and 15 minutes and see what happens. So come with me to the oven. So in goes the bread. We'll take them out in 15 minutes or so.
15 minutes later.
All right guys, so cocoa bread is now ready. They're a little bit browner on top than I want, but that's fine. So it means that I have to reduce the oven temperature from 375 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit next time. All right, so what I'm doing now is just smothering them with more butter. So they're brown on top and they're the perfect color underneath. My oven is a convection oven, so it seems as if the 375, the 15 minutes that I gave it was a little bit too much. So if you're baking it at 375, you want to check it at the 10-minute mark to make sure that it's not browning too fast. I just set mine and wait till the timer went off, and so I noticed it's a little bit browner than I want, but that's fine. It is still absolutely soft and delicious. I'm just gonna put them on my tray. They're still very hot, but that's fine. So this is cocoa bread. I do hope you found this tutorial to be very informative. And I do hope you make some cocoa bread for your family. It's very easy. Thank you so much for watching. I am your Diva Chef, Simone Walker Barrett. Remember to subscribe, tell a friend to subscribe, like, share, comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Take care.